What's up, everyone? It's Bismo, the Beardless here. Ahsoka? It's done. The first season. It's all out. All the episodes are out. Just a couple days ago, we got the finale. And tonight, we've got a lot to talk about. I have got a lot of thoughts to get out there. I have a lot of notes as well. And if you haven't seen the title already, the main premise I'm going to be sharing today and talking with y'all is just about why I believe Ahsoka is the best live action Star Wars show to date because of how many things. I could say because and start naming things, but I've got a list of literally like 14, 15 different things to go over. But yeah, this is the Bismo Show number 13 weeks straight of this. Usually not usually. Sometimes we have guests on. Tonight, going solo because I've got a lot to say. But we're going to be talking about chat as well, because I'm curious what you guys thought. We've got a poll going on because I want to just hear general consensus. And honestly, I will say my objective tonight is I'm going to try to convince those of y'all that maybe are a bit more skeptical or not as optimistic about Ahsoka. Try to get people a little bit more optimistic towards the future anyway, because I think regardless of how you feel about the show, I really, truly believe Ahsoka sets up a very positive future for Star Wars as a whole. The Bismo Show live every Thursday around 8 p.m. CST. The sad thing is we've got no new Ahsoka episodes after this week, so yeah, that is a bit sad. But it is exciting in that we can have a little bit more freedom too with what we are discussing. Easier to kind of get guests on. I want to try to get some new guests on here as well. I haven't been on the show before. What's up, Icy? What's up, Nate Kirk? What's up, Gold Lancer? Sup, y'all? I kind of want to get some music in the background before I start going too crazy, though. I don't want the music to be too loud. Let's see here. Get it just about right for y'all. Yeah. Built the poll. Currently, nobody has said they really dislike Ahsoka, but I'm going to pull up my notes now on just why Ahsoka is good and kind of better than most of the other live action shows. Before we kind of get into that, though, I just want to give my kind of general thoughts on the finale. I really did like the finale as a whole. Episode 7, the episode before the finale, was a bit slow for me, kind of a bit lower quality. However, the finale, I think it was like honestly the perfect amount of time where it kind of felt like a movie where they got right into the action. They established right away, okay, Morgan is gonna have the 1000 blade, which is crazy that they even do that. They kind of give her full Night Sister powers, and from there, then we get the logo, and then we cut to Ezra building his lightsaber. And I didn't even know this was going to happen. This was the first shocking part just right away, because I didn't think Ezra would be ever really using a lightsaber. I thought he was just all Force. And then to get the fact that he's not just building any lightsaber, but he's using a 1 of 2 part that is from Kanan's lightsaber and making that and incorporating that into his saber. The vibes there between him and Hu Yang, and it's just the perfect amount of like, you know, a little bit of comedy between them. Like Ezra's like, I don't want to build a saber, you know, my master taught me, and then Hu Yang's like, well, I taught your master. It's like, oh, yeah, the main action sequences of this finale, we get Ahsoka, Ezra, Sabine. So white sabers, green sabers, and blue sabers all going at once against stormtroopers, and then the stormtroopers become the resurrected zombie troopers that we were kind of expecting for a while now, that, you know, we hadn't had happen. And that was a ton of fun. I liked that. The action was really good in those. Emin Esfandi, especially as Ezra, like, that's the Ezra I'm looking for personally. That's what I want to see. Just the movements he was doing. I kind of want to, as I'm kind of talking about the finale itself, I kind of want to pull up, just talk about what I'm talking about a little bit. This real quick. Gonna play with fire a little bit. Oh. Okay. But yeah, constructing the saber, it being the same as Kanan's. The music in this is so like uplifting too. I will say it is a little odd that they're just kind of like slowly moving their ship with the turtle people. Like, why are they even with the turtle people? Like, they're just kind of a target for them. So like, you could kind of expect this was gonna happen. But whatever, they get the horse puppies or whatever you want to call them, and hop on. What's up, Jane Doe? What's up, Tony? And then, I mean, this artwork's really cool, seeing Thrawn and all that. We just get, like, it's just action, action, action. Seeing Ezra, Ahsoka, and Sabine having to work together to then fight off these zombie troopers is so exciting. And dude, Emin Esfandi, the action that we were getting from him in this. Oh, this is not muted. Gotta be careful. Like, look at that. Are you kidding me? Like, oh my, there's so much good stuff. Accommodation. Very creepy too. The episode 8 felt a lot more in line with what episode 6 kind of established. You know, it's kind of a race against the clock. Yo, this part was so badass from Thrawn, where he basically was like, well, we need more time to be bought, Morgan. And yeah, he doesn't, it's just implied, like, you got to take one for the team. And okay, these two Death Troopers here. Now I'm curious, are these the original Death Troopers that Thrawn has? I forget their names in the Thrawn book. But he has two very powerful dark troopers, and I guess they're now zombieified because they've passed at some point. They put up a good fight, and simultaneously, this fight with the Talzin sword and Ahsoka is really effective. I really like this. That acting was her best acting in the whole series, in that Shaitsa with Thrawn saying she needed to sacrifice herself. Yeah, it was really good. And this action sequence is great, and it took the whole season for Sabine to be able to properly wield the Force. I mean, what can I say? I called it. She was going to be using the Force, but they did it in a way that makes sense too. Like, she, dabbled in the Force throughout the season a little bit, but like, you can't just like pick it up. Like, you really got to focus, and I think it was a perfect moment for her to do so. And then I really didn't know what was going to happen from here. I thought for a second that like the Ahsoka show was just going to be one season due to I thought there's a chance that Ahsoka was going to get killed off here, honestly. Like, she was going to be the one left behind, or maybe like captured or something. and how Sabine works together to get Ezra on the ship. I really wasn't expecting Sabine to stay with Ahsoka. Like, I really didn't think that there would be two people left off in this galaxy. We get a, Thrawn's victory speech to Ahsoka. It's such a kick in the nuts at the end. Like, it's so Thrawn-like. Just like a little tease, get close enough to almost catch up with them. They get out. And then we get our end sequence. And again, I was only expecting there to be one person kind of left behind from the good guys. But leaving both Sabine and Ahsoka, I actually like this more. And I'm going to get into why. We get Shin. I will say, that, as far as things a little bit out of place in this finale, it did feel a little out of place that, like, we just kind of get Shin at the end. Like, but this Balin scene, very, very powerful. Getting the Mortis gods, all of them in frame in that statue. And then what interests me the most is you can kind of see a beacon in the background here to some power source that Balin is getting drawn to. And that's super interesting. They get to Dathomir, the homeworld of the Night Sisters. A little confused that we don't get any scene with Ezra like stealing a ship, but we'll roll with it because of what this sets up. Ezra now back with the gang. Sabine and Ahsoka having a great conversation, and how I wanted and predicted Ahsoka to end with Anakin's Force Ghost, just to give a glimmer of hope for our heroes that may have failed. But now, we get hope. Even though our heroes lost, we get that hope. And that's where we end season. Now I kind of want to get into what why. I've got a lot on this. There's a lot on this list, but we're just going to run through it. So, first things first. Why Ahsoka is the best live action Star Wars show? 4 out of 8 Ahsoka episodes are near perfection compared to, well, I guess, what defines near perfection? I guess it's kind of my scale, but episodes 4, 5, 6, 3 episodes in a row that are near perfect. We get the mid-season finale, the Ahsoka Balin fight, and the jump to this new galaxy. Episode 5 in the world between worlds with Anakin and just getting Ahsoka the White. And then the introduction in this new galaxy in episode 6 to that new setting. And that's not to say the other episodes are bad. I would put episode 7 probably at the lowest, but it's not like an end all by any means. And from there, the finale, so good. Now, yes, there was definitely things I mentioned in going over this that there's some question marks, but overall, what the finale accomplished and the hype scenes in it did well. But yeah, 4 out of 8 near perfect episodes. And we'll say, for me anyhow, 4, 5, and 6 near perfect. The finale near perfect in what it accomplishes. You can even see episode 3 is really good. But yeah. Next up, though, another reason why Ahsoka is the best live action show. This was like something that kind of made me nervous midway through the season that they weren't going to do, but properly paying tribute to Kanan Jarrus, and they did so in multiple ways, and just how they finished off with Ezra constructing his new lightsaber with the image of Kanan Jarrus, and even the mention of Caleb Doom. Just a really great tie-in and exactly what we need. Now, some people might complain, like, why don't we get Kanan Force Ghost or something like that? Well, Kanan's not that powerful of a Jedi. He doesn't know how to become a Force Ghost. At best, maybe in the future, we might see Doom at the Wolf. That would be something to look forward to in season 2 or the finale. Ahsoka utilizes characters we know and love in a meaningful way. So compared to just, I guess random cameos some shows might have. The cameos, for the most part, in Ahsoka really do kind of serve a purpose to the story itself. Obviously, Anakin Skywalker is a key component of the story here, in helping lead and set the tone for Ahsoka herself as a character, and to help develop, to look past that fear and the mistakes she had made in the past, and to look forward. C-3PO, him kind of just introducing the idea of Leia Organa being the kind of, if Leia Organa will be the leader of the defense fleet. That's a great introduction to that character for future setup. And to go back on to Anakin Skywalker, though, but that interconnection, establishing Anakin in this, because of Anakin has a big tie into Thrawn, and then we get that towards the end, and how Thrawn reacts to Ahsoka and learning out that Anakin's her master, just tying that in more. And then obviously getting Rebels characters throughout this, with whether it's Ezra, Sabine, Hera, and they feel like their own characters. But at the same time, to go off of that, not only does Ahsoka use characters we know and love, but Ahsoka introduces new characters as well, but they do so in a meaningful way that actually contributes to the story. So yeah, Shin and Baylan, obviously it's the talk of the town, some very interesting characters, but besides being interesting and cool characters, they have genuine purpose to the story and to the stories ahead. Obviously, there's a lot going on with Shin. She's kind of a wild card. Like, will she kind of team up with the good guys later on? She's still searching for her, finding her own path. Baylan looking for the more deeper meaning and value in the Star Wars universe of power and just the Force. So interesting. And like the Night Mothers are kind of like a crossroads of, like, we're familiar with Night Sisters and Great Mothers, but now they're from the new galaxy and they seem much more powerful as well. But yeah, rather to, like, for an example, like in the Kenobi show, we might get characters that are introduced that just don't necessarily need to be introduced and don't serve as much of a purpose to the direct story in the show. And that's what I'm getting at. So Ahsoka also introduces new characters that actually serve a purpose to the storytelling, and don't just follow, like, the corporate agenda or whatever. Next up, Ahsoka feels like Star Wars. There's a mix of mystery, darkness, the Force, a lot of Force in this, silliness, and even though the good guys lose and the bad guys win, we still get a sense of hope at the end, and those elements are just throughout. Just, it has the perfect mix of elements that I honestly think just defines Star Wars. When what defines Star Wars, like the feelings you feel, I guess, when watching like the full original trilogy. I think that's the best baseline. Like, there's ups and downs throughout. There's mystery. Not everything is defined. Like, for example, what Ahsoka kind of went through with Anakin in episode 5, it's not so black and white. There's a lot of mystery behind it, but at the same time, there are general things you can take away from it of hope, darkness, and mystery. This new galaxy being so mysterious and dark. There's so many questions unanswered, and Baylan looking off into the distance. What is that power he's looking at? Is this some kind of, like, Sith influence, some Sith holocron that's causing that beacon? Dontrell Mayfield says Thrawn has no idea Ezra is there and reunited with Hera and the Rebel Alliance. Ezra, and some details about how to stop Thrawn, also how to bring back Ahsoka and Sabine. Ezra is my only hope. Yeah, Ezra may or may not be a full point on this list here. So yeah, Ahsoka to me is what the definition of Star Wars is. And I might make a video on this more so of like why this is just good for the brand in general. But when it comes to Star Wars really shouldn't be viewed as something like an HBO show, like a House of the Dragon, or like a Netflix, like Breaking Bad. We're not here to critique necessarily, oh, this is perfect. This is a perfect show with perfect acting, perfect altogether Um, we're not necessarily here to critique the show in a way that judges it solely based off of um, just being a good show, but on the metric of being a good Star Wars show. And that just kind of falls back to like the definition of what we kind of talked about there. Like having characters like this, the turtle people as comedic relief, like that fits the Star Wars narrative. Even though it might be silly or just like, what's with this, like those type of things have always kind of been in Star Wars and kind of add to that sense of more, I guess, happiness or just silliness, to some extent. And that those kind of elements are needed. But ultimately, Ahsoka does this while taking a serious tone and also a dark tone with Thrawn and the Night Sisters as well. Thrawn is absolutely badass. He has the same, he's the same voice of the same voice actor in Rebels, and his acting and performance is so captivating. It's just like Thrawn is back, and he is, you could say, better than ever, but it's more so he's more serious than ever. He even admits he lost once to the heroics of a Jedi, but never again. He will do whatever it takes to win, and that just makes him that much dangerous to this new Republic in the new galaxy now that he's back. Next up, though, and it kind of relates to a lot of this, but of why Ahsoka is better than like these other Star Wars shows is that the story in Ahsoka has a larger impact on the entire Star Wars universe as a whole. It's, actually like Star Wars, like the war in the stars, compared to other shows that kind of just zoom in and focus on a particular area in the story, or just, something super minute in detail. For example, The Mandalorian, we've got a bunch of, side quests on kind of random planets. We're just following a couple, like a bounty hunter and a Jedi, perhaps. And they do have an overarching story, but that overarching story at best is Moff Gideon and the Mandalorian planet. There really isn't that big of a tie-in to the galaxy at large. Like, how does it impact the war in the stars themselves? Like, there's some battles in the stars, but what's going on with Ahsoka will impact the entire Star Wars galaxy we know and love. Now that Thrawn is back, multi-scale conflict is going to happen, meaning like an actual Star War. Like the Star Wars are back, like a true warly fashion, compared to say, we could say the Mandalorian reference or like Kenobi. It just follows like a needless side mission that kind of just follows one character that really kind of already has a story and doesn't impact the Star Wars universe kind of as a whole. Andor has this same kind of problem where it kind of just zooms in and looks at one particular character, and we kind of already know the story of what happens in the next couple of years of that character, and his story is ended. And there's really just not a whole lot to. There isn't really an overarching plot line other than the character himself of Andor. Obviously we take a look at all other characters in that show itself. However, ultimately we know how that story is going to end, and although it impacts the entire galaxy, that lacking element of mystery really takes away from that story. So Ahsoka being so large in scale and setting up so much that we don't know is going to happen fits all those kind of criteria that we want. But yeah, Ahsoka just sets up so much greater of a scope in story, the entire galaxy, multiple galaxies at this time. And finally, M&S Fondi, Ezra is perfect casting and the perfect character to be a lead in the next Star Wars Manoverse project. We get now imagine a movie. You're going to the movie theaters and you get Ezra as the main character in live action, leading the Rebels, New Republic, and teaming up with the Mandalorians and maybe Luke Skywalker to battle against Thrawn. While at the same time, we have a secondary storyline in a whole different galaxy with Sabine and Ahsoka, Shin and Baylan, and just discovering the greater mysteries that are going on in that new galaxy and how they kind of all interconnect. With the Mortis God statues in this new galaxy, that shows that although these galaxies are a bit different, there are still some fundamental things that keep the same between these galaxies and can connect. So, yeah. Ahsoka sets up so much with this finale, and I talked about I thought they were gonna leave behind one good guy, but to leave behind Sabine and Ahsoka, there's obviously so much more now to explore in this new galaxy, and we've only been on one planet. Baylan, Thrawn, and Ezra stole the show. Yeah, they did great. To think that the Mando planet will be an army for the war against Thrawn, yeah, I mean they might help out, but like. That's the thing. Like, Mandalorian is like, all right, we're setting up maybe a battle or an army for that battle, whereas Ahsoka is setting up the battle itself, the battle to end all battles. Moff Gideon and Thrawn versus Din Djarin, Bo-Katan, Ezra Bridger, and potentially more. You know, we got Zeb out there, Hera. I just wish we got an Ezra and Hera hug. Yeah, I mean, that's something to note, but I just don't like. Just because something didn't happen on screen, like obviously they hugged, or we could get that on the. I'm sure that Ezra and Sabine, or no, not Ezra and Hera will have a more deep heart in the next season or the next movie. But honestly, like I thought that this was just gonna be Ahsoka season 1, and then we would get the movie. But at this point, you could say could be an Ahsoka season 2, but I think that there's enough established and set up with the Baylan and Shin storyline, Sabine and Ahsoka with, you know, Anakin Force Ghost there in this new galaxy, help out with them. And then Ezra and Thrawn with the Heir to the Empire stuff, that we could have a full-on trilogy of movies dealing with this entire storyline. Because you got to think of it like this. Like, it's not as simple as, you know, defeating Thrawn. And it's not as simple as like Sabine and Ahsoka like defeating Baylan and Shin and getting back to the new galaxy. There's a lot more at stake and a lot more going on in these two stories. Thrawn wants to take over the galaxy not for his own ambition, but rather to defend against a greater power on the outside. And I want to learn what that is. Is this the Grisk? Is it the Yuzong Vong? Because this is how I could see it. Like, if it was a trilogy, we could get, you know, kind of the start. Like, we get the reactions of the New Republic, finding out that Thrawn's back, some initial battles with them, you know, the initial skirmishes and whatnot. We get some nuggets as to what's happening in this new galaxy with Baylan and Shin in that storyline. Sabine and Ahsoka continue their training. Episode 2 could be this great conflict now, like the final battle between Ezra, Thrawn, New Republic, and all of our heroes coming together. Maybe Sabine and Ahsoka figure out how to come back, and they come back in the second episode of the trilogy. And then to end the second episode of the trilogy, you could have the Grisk emerge in this massive fleet that is an enemy against everyone, Thrawn, the allies, and everyone else, setting up a third movie where Thrawn and the good guys would have to team up to defeat this greater threat, whether it be the Grisk or the Yuzong Vong or something else. And how that all ties into Baylan and Shin and this greater power. There's just so much that they could go off of. And this is why Ahsoka does such a good job. It sets up so much to be explored. And there's so much lore and fun within the season itself that it wasn't all just one big layup. But that was what its goal was. Like, a lot of people had crazy expectations for Ahsoka, when in reality, this was to just set up the Mandoverse as a whole. These other shows really haven't done much. They've like moved a couple boulders here and there, while Ahsoka has moved mountains to set up the future of Star Wars and Dave Filoni Star Wars and this Mandoverse. I don't watch any of Ahsoka. Did Luke show up? And if so, did he get to talk to Anakin? Luke did not show up. Highly recommend watching Ahsoka, because Ahsoka is certainly better than any Mandalorian season, and it is the best live action Star Wars show. Um, and I would expect Anakin to talk with Luke in the next project we get. That's how many things are kind of like set up. Yeah, nothing wrong with a little emotional pout. I agree. There are definitely, like, don't get me wrong, there are aspects of this show that I can see like, oh yeah, I didn't like this. Like I said, episode 7 really is not that strong compared to the rest. And then there's like even things in the finale. It's like, oh, they could have done this, they could have done that. But ultimately, overarching, what Ahsoka does right, it does amazingly right. It does great. And that ultimately, like, in any show, you're going to have a little bit of nitpicks here or there. But if the overarching theme is that it's a success, it did what, you know, hoped for it to kind of set out for, then it's a success, you know? Is it better than Andor, though? Yeah, I kind of already went over as... You'll have to go a little bit further back in the video, but I talked about, you know, various reasons why it's... I'll have a... At some point, I'm going to make a video, though, talking about the various and multiple reasons why Ahsoka is just way better of a Star Wars show than Andor, but just any of these all... Like, the title is Why Ahsoka is the Best Live-Action Star Wars Show. Ahsoka is better than Mandalorian Season 1, 2, 3, Book of Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor. It's better than all of them. It accomplishes what Star Wars is and captures the essence of Star Wars, while the other shows are missing one or more of the elements that are not in it. Yeah, Anbor. Anbor, that's my bad. Not as bad as no Dinbo. See you later. Goodbye. For sure. I'd prefer a few more seasons of Mando and Ahsoka finishing with one movie. For me personally, now I say Ahsoka is the best live-action Star Wars show, but quite frankly, that's because live-action Star Wars shows are not good. Like, I'm just gonna say that straight up. Like, I want movies. I want movies. All of these shows would have been better in the movie format. So that's why I'm hoping for a trilogy to explore this storyline. Did Anakin say this is where the fun begins? He might have. Got to find out. Blasphemy, says Dustin. What's up, Dustin? I've gone through my list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 reasons written out. I went into more of why Ahsoka is just the best live-action Star Wars show and why it does so good for the Star Wars brand. Like, again, there's problems with Ahsoka. Some of the episodes not the best. Like episode 7, really not a lot accomplished. But Ahsoka, again, Ahsoka now we can kind of compare it a little bit. But Ahsoka has one congruent story. A lot of the other shows don't accomplish this. But yeah. Ultimately, when we're getting shows, you're going to get a sense of filler to some extent. You're going to get a sense of, like, you know, why is this line in here? But that's because this stuff should just be in the movie format, though. Like, I don't know how I would feel if there was no other Star Wars shows and this was just the first Star Wars show in live action. It's just because we've kind of got a baseline now, it's easy for me to grade Ahsoka versus the other Star Wars shows. And I just don't see a world where any of them are better. Like, Ahsoka is just so much greater in scope. Like, just look at the term Star Wars. Like, Star Wars. Like, wars in the stars. War of the stars. Now, take that definition, you know, like, we have like a legitimate war. A war usually involves multiple battles or something, you know, greater in scope. Mandalorian Season 1. Is there a war that takes place in Mandalorian Season 1? There's some skirmishes. Same with Season 2. Season 3, we've got a full-scale planetary battle. That's cool. That's cool. Kenobi. Is there a war in Kenobi? I don't know. I would say no. The Book of Boba Fett. Again, the battle is like the battles we're getting in these shows are skirmishes. And I'm not going to say we got any like multi-planetary battles in Ahsoka. However, what Ahsoka has done here and what it is doing impacts two galaxies now and sets up the Star Wars to come, the full fleet of Thrawn versus the New Republic. The stake of the entire Star Wars universe is at hand with what has been established in Ahsoka impacts the entire galaxy as a whole. I can agree with the movie part for sure. Yes. No wars, but there are stars. Yeah, there are stars. But that's the thing, like, if you look at like episodes 1 through 9, even the sequel trilogy captures the very basic, like, what is Star Wars like from a perspective of like, at least they have an overarching battle, a war that impacts the galaxy at large. Like, all of these Star Wars shows, for the most part, just kind of zoom in and look at one little thing. So why Ahsoka gets me so excited, other than all the fun things it does with, Anakin, the deeper lore, Mortis gods, multiple lightsaber fights, the Force, all that, is it actually genuinely sets up a true Star Wars story to be told. And I think there's enough here to be told across like multiple movies. Like, I want a trilogy because I think it could happen. Like I said, we could trilogy 1 could be kind of like the initial, like, oh, the New Republic is like, oh crap, they weren't kidding, Thrawn is back, and we get some initial fights against Thrawn where the New Republic kind of gets dogged on and all that. Ezra's trying to, like, rally the troops and all of that. And then simultaneously, we get this storyline. We get a little bit more info on what Baylan is searching for at that, in the distance, in that distance, there's that beacon of light he sees when he's on the Mortis statue. He's like, I want to know what that is. So I want to see him exploring that. It could be some kind of temple and all that. And then the storyline with Sabine and Ahsoka. I could see some deeper training. Maybe Anakin continues both of their trainings at once. And this episode 1, you could kind of have a lot of that stuff. I'm not sure exactly where that would end, but I could see then episode 2, a greater conflict than against Thrawn, like the final battle against Thrawn. But rather than any side losing, everyone loses at the end of this episode 2, where the Grisk or the Yuzan Vong or somebody like that comes in, and then it's the true bad guys against Thrawn plus the good guys kind of having to come together. And that would set up a trilogy 3 where it's not just the fate of like good versus bad, but the fate of humanity itself in the Star Wars universe as a whole could be at jeopardy. Like the end of reality as we know it. But I don't know. I'm sure they'll just make another season and we'll get what we get, but I'm putting it out there. I want movie. I want just movies. I'd argue the opposite. The TV shows work at their best when they're much smaller scale and grounded, filling in the gaps of the films. The big epic battle stuff should be saved for the movies. Well, I mean, my argue to that is like, then we don't need them. Like, we don't need a lot of these shows. Like, can somebody look me in the eye and tell me that the Kenobi show was needed? Like, how many different pieces of content do we have in that time period? To kind of know what's happening. And kind of the same can be said to Andor. Like, we kind of already know that time period. Now, I really do like The Mandalorian. I will say that. But I can recognize that ultimately most of the Mandalorian episodes are side quests. As I never watched Rebels, the ending had me looking up the Father, and that was really intriguing to me. I was like, lore, that's right up my alley. Yeah. Have you seen Rebels and the Clone Wars? Because I will make one thing clear. The best of Star Wars live action, Ahsoka, is still below the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. Animated live action Star Wars shows. It's just so much easier for Dave Filoni, I think. You don't have to worry about acting and all that. You can just put in what you want, and it's really just story based. A good that's the nicest thing you can say about the sequel trilogy XD. Probably. A good Kenobi show was needed. I would say if they're going to make a Kenobi show, they should have made it good. But I don't think a Kenobi show was needed. That's my stance on it. Like, if you're going to make it, you best make it good. Like, with the Kenobi show, I can't even say with a straight face that any of those episodes are, like, good all the way through. Whereas Ahsoka, I can say for like 3 episodes are near perfect. I would really put 4, like half the season at near perfect. You could even round up to 5, and then it's like, well, episodes 1 and 2 aren't even that bad, and then it's like there's like one episode 7 is what I am not a big fan of, I guess. But there is no show that in Star Wars live action episode 4, 5, 6 that is the best, the absolute best, like back episodes we have ever gotten. Holy moly, Dan, the Stay on Target pilot with 10 smackaroos. Is that a super chat or a super sticker? He had a lot of fun watching Ahsoka. Balin, Shin were my favorite parts. Filoni moved the Star Wars galaxy forward. Have a few complaints, but overall enjoyed this season and the setup. Andor greater than Ahsoka? Question mark. Well, first off, I gotta say, really appreciate the support, Dan. Means a lot. Had to one up me though, didn't you? No. But yeah, ultimately, like, the goal of this stream, though, if anything, is to really just make fans more excited and optimistic for the future, because I think there are problems with Ahsoka, but overall, Ahsoka does the things right. The things that it does right, it does very well, and it sets up a great future ahead for so much to talk about. And as a content creator, it gives room for so much to theorize now in the next coming years, and it just makes me like more passionate and excited to get on the mic and talk with you all, or have people on and have like Dan or Dustin on, debate about this stuff, because if Ahsoka wasn't good, like what like I don't want to talk about it, I guess, like if it was just really bad, like I just wouldn't be motivated. Like, I don't know. Yeah, thanks again, Dan. Really, really appreciate it. I went over my list of 16 things as why Ahsoka is super good earlier on the stream. My voice is kind of shot from the ranting, but yeah. I disagree. Ewan McGregor was still in his prime. We needed at least one more adventure with him before he got too old. There's a good ebook where they should have just adapted. Yeah, no, I agree. Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan Kenobi is my favorite character. But the story they made was needless. I would take a Kenobi show, and I would be excited about Kenobi show if he stayed on Tatooine and just learned how to become a Force ghost. Like, the entire time we just learned more about the Force. Like, I would rather have that. Enjoyed taking the Ahsoka journey with you. Love your thoughts and just messing with you on Andor. It's all love either way. It's definitely been a fun ride with you all. I do want to make some shout outs to the people that came on during the stream. But yeah, Dan and Dustin from Stay on Target and Pen Patrol Star Wars. Was fun throughout these weeks, just having something to look forward to each week, and that's something Ahsoka kind of like. I feel like whenever there's new Star Wars to watch, like I'm always gonna be excited, but I haven't felt this excited. I don't even know when, really. Maybe since maybe when they announced episode 7, and I'm waiting for episode 7. like just how excited for new Star Wars. But that's what Ahsoka did every week. I'd watch the new episode, and it would just make me that much more excited for the next week and what's to come, because I'd have questions. There'd be a lot of mystery. There'd be a lot of action and drama, and that's what it's all about. Just the overall enjoyment factor, I guess, you know. And I do gotta say though, I do think that Ahsoka does reward like hardcore fans. I know it definitely was put out there, and you know, we get reestablished like characters get redeveloped, like, you know, Sabine or Ahsoka or whatever for some of the normies, but ultimately they give us some nuggets, some really good nuggets of deeper lore, like the Mortis gods and all that, but also giving a sense of mystery, putting the casuals and the hardcore fans all in one group. And yeah, wow, a lot of fun. Thoughts on Skeleton Crew? I'm pretty sure that's coming up next. I thought that the Acolyte was coming up next, which makes me like, I want Manowar stories. Like, I don't like, that's exciting. I'll watch it, but won't get me as excited as like the next installment to the story we just watched, if that makes sense. Which is going to be multiple years, or at least a couple of years. The sad thing is, I think Ewan McGregor was the producer of Obi-Wan 2. I was expecting much more. I mean, they gave him a producer tag, but I'm gonna be honest, they give producer tags on these shows, and there's like 6 producers on the Kenobi show, but they give them out like you know, like the mints that are given out at a doctor's appointment or at a restaurant. You know? I don't think a producer tag really means much. Executive producer does. I think he was an executive producer, but there was a lot. Hey everyone, may I join the council? Yeah, what's up, Omega Zero? Welcome to the stream. Bad Batch season 3 thoughts. I'm really excited to see how they close out Bad Batch season 3, and it's animated, so Bad Batch has probably been a bit weaker than the other animated shows, but that just further emphasizes my point as to why Ahsoka is. It just makes my point stronger. Like, look at Bad Batch and compare it to Clone Wars and Rebels. What separates the Bad Batch, Clone Wars, and Rebels? Bad Batch zooms in on a particular group and not necessarily the war as a whole, the overarching story. Now, Ahsoka, it zooms in on a group, but this group directly impacts what's going on with everyone in the galaxy, whereas the Bad Batch, it kind of just impacts them. You are on this council, but we do not rank you grant you the rank of master. Yeah, my voice is kind of a little shot, guys. I don't know how much more. I do want to get some videos out there. I'm just so busy, but I do want to like make a proper, like, longer video giving my full thoughts of this. I will say I am someone that I do tend to get. I do find myself sometimes on the like hype train of stuff, but I don't usually like. I'm gonna be rewatching Ahsoka, and I could like rewatch the whole season right now. That's how I currently feel. Mando season 3. Like, that's not rewatchable. I mean, it's not. It's rewatchable, but not like Ahsoka. I will rewatch Ahsoka multiple times. It gave me I mean, back to back to back, 3 episodes in a row of peak Star Wars. Are you kidding me? My word. But yeah, now this means though we get more freedom on what we can talk. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot of Ahsoka in these streams, but it opens up the possibilities now. Although we don't have current Star Wars to talk about, we've got a lot of theories and a lot of fun things to now just discuss, and just the whole space is open for discussion, and we can get, you know, guests on and have more casual shows and all that. It's outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be a master? Take a seat, young Skywalker. Forgive me, Master, but I've sinned. Yeah, Ahsoka episodes 4, 5, 6 were an amazing trilogy of episodes. Yeah. Like, oh, so good. Like, those episodes are so rewatchable. Oh my gosh. Dustin with the 10 buckaroo as well? What's going on, guys? What's going on? You guys are way too generous. Way too generous. Bismo is the best. Oh, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would, but you said it for me. No. As for Ahsoka, Andor had better writing in its worst moments than Ahsoka did in the entire series. I wished I was Marok by the end. Haha. JK, much love, Bismo. Love your takes. It hurt a little bit to read, but I will accept it. No, thanks for the support, Dustin. And Dustin is also from Stay on Target. Dan and Dustin, dynamic brother duo on the Stay on Target live stream. Make sure to go check out their channel. They're on a lot of previous. They're on the last week's show, and they've been in a lot of my shows, so you can easily find them there, or just look up Stay on Target. They have a very high quality show with lots of people on it. Every Wednesday at 8 Eastern. But Ahsoka, well, that's what I mean. Like, bro, just make it a movie. And also, I don't know, how is Andor like fast paced? I was low key falling asleep. Like, Andor was the first Star Wars show where, like, I will say, at the time when Andor was coming out, like, I had a lot of things, or no, I had nothing going on in my life because I had some, health problems. So I really had, like, I was recovering from injury and stuff. So I was like bedridden. So the only thing I could do was watch shows. But I'll tell you, if I had actual things going on when Andor was out, I don't think I would have continued watching after that first 3-episode drop. When a show releases 3 episodes at once, you know that they're compensating for something. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, thanks again for the love. We'll have to reconnect sometime, and we'll have to discuss more though about it. But oh. Do you think they'll ever recast the OT character or stuck with the deepfakes going forward? That's a good question. I'm going to lean towards they are going to recast due to monetary reasons. And that's why I don't think we saw Leia Organa when C-3PO came in. They're kind of still deciding. But I think they will go with recasting because Bob Iger wants to make money. And recasting is just easy. Let's be real. They can just make movies like that. And they don't have to worry about that. Like, we didn't see Zeb. And there was plenty of opportunities to insert Zeb into the story that he should have been in, and that is something that does affect me a little bit, but I have hope moving forward. Don't get me wrong, I love what they did with Luke and Mando, but it restricts them so much. I want more than just a cameo every year or so. Bismo has said this a lot at times on streams, but what do you think of Shin versus Ezra? But Ezra saved her, which got her conflicted, not full good, but help him escape Thrawn in the end. Well, I could certainly see Shin helping out Ezra, because I think there's a lot of confliction in that character, and I mean that can easily be seen. And if you looked at the Star Wars Celebration interview with Ivana Sakno, the actor who plays Shin Hati, he talks about how her character kind of is not necessarily full dark side or light side. It's basically what she said. And that is the essence of it. Yeah, the first 3 episodes of Andor are really boring to me. I almost could watch. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I had anything going on, that would have been the first Star Wars show I would not have finished. Like, personally, I thought Andor was extremely slow. Like, that's one of the biggest problems. I thought, like, their mid-season finale should have been that end of episode 3. Where we get at the end of Andor, I think should have been like the mid-season finale, and then we should have accomplished more, because Andor is only a 2-season show. Like, because they were so slow like this, it's probably gonna feel super fast-paced, and I might end up liking it a lot more in season 2 to that though. Had to get back somehow, but seriously, thanks for having us on, man. Your optimism is infectious. Of course, man. And I mean, I do try to be optimistic, but at the same time, I do try to, like, I try to say how it is. I really do try to be fair. Like, for me, like, again, Ahsoka is the best live action Star Wars show, not because it's a perfect show, but because of the things it accomplishes, and that there are episodes in it that are perfect Star Wars, what they do right. They do really right. But there are problems with it, but those problems don't matter in the grand scheme of things, ultimately. Like, there was definitely some, like, all right, come on, we can fast forward through this. Like, episode 7, that was about half the episode, but ultimately, the things it got done correctly were done more right and set a higher ceiling than any Star Wars show has thus far, in my opinion. And teasing of Shin becoming Ezra's apprentice in the future and teach her the ways of the Force and Balin did. I think we get teased that Ahsoka would be the master to Sabine. I think that's more likely. Nicely played, Dustin. Is Dan. Yo, Bismo, they have to recast Balin, right? Yeah, I released a video. It is a shorter video, like not the most recent, but the video before the Ezra video. I gave some options for who they could recast, but I do have some ideas. But the like Hodor, like Christian Nyren, the actor who plays Hodor, in Game of Thrones, and also I forget the name of the actor, but even the actor who plays like Ryder, like we could just retcon Ryder's character. Like, it was cool, but like just have Clancy Brown play Balin. But yeah, they're definitely gonna have to recast Balin. There's no way. There's too much going on with that story. Rest in peace, the legend Rey, but that story's gotta continue. They gotta find a good character too, because that's something, or a good actor to play it, because those are big shoes to fill. I wouldn't mind another deepfake Luke as long as Mark Hamill got to be on set together with Hayden. Mark and Hayden on set. Do it, Filoni. That would be cool. That would be pretty cool. I think you could still have Mark Hamill on set advising a recasted Luke anyway, though, because I think that ultimately Mark Hamill does know the character the best, other than George Lucas. So having Mark Hamill on set to help out if they do recast Luke would be a good way to do that. Justin Winthorell agreed on Balin. Big shoes to fill. Rip Ray Stevenson. Yeah, 100%. Now, I haven't really showed my shirt today, but all it says is Star Wars on it, because that's what Ahsoka is. Ahsoka is the best live action show because it fits that criteria and that definition for what a Star Wars is, and it does so in the best of manners. Now, my voice is shot. We've been going on for an hour now. I think I've said what I wanted to say. I'll have more videos coming out with Ahsoka. It's been fun kind of hanging out. Hopefully, maybe I got some of you guys a little bit more optimistic towards the future, because Ahsoka sets up so much fun that could be played out in a full trilogy, multiple seasons of a show, or whatever they want to do. So excited to see what Dave Filoni, the king, cooks up next. But sorry for the abrupt ending, guys, but I think I covered just about everything. Ahsoka is the best Star Wars live action show. Keyword Star Wars. That's all I'm saying. We'll be back next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. CST. But I don't know what we'll be talking about. That's the interesting part. No more Ahsoka. It'll be a bit odd now. I mean, I'm sure we'll be talking Ahsoka, but we've got freedom to talk more about news and just what's going on as well. Yeah, stay tuned. Join the Discord if you haven't already. Hope you guys have a great night. Yeah, hashtag Faith and Filoni, hashtag Dave Filoni, the gourmet chef. Oh. Ugh. So much. Thanks again, Stay on Target. Make sure to go check out Stay on Target if you haven't already. Honestly, I think they're linked in this description of this video because I didn't really edit the description, so you could go find that easy as well. Been fun. Rock on. Lots more speculation to come. 100%. See you, Dan. See you, Omega Zero. See you, everyone that tuned in. Have a good night.